about Intel's approach to kind of this emerging tablet netbook and what I'll talk about just companion devices area. And when I talk about companion devices, I very much mean not a companion to the PC, but actually a companion to our lives. And what's happening is we're using these devices, phones, tablets, laptops, more and more. They have all-day battery life. They're giving us information real time on stock prices, weather, keeping us connected with all of our family and friends. And our premise on companion computing is you need a choice, right? When you're looking for a companion, personality, politics, religious beliefs, all of those things are important. You want a choice when you're choosing your next companion. And so that's kind of the theme that I want to talk about today is choice. As we get through that today, I think we're still kind of early in this kind of emerging companion device category. And we're seeing basically two types of companions. You've got your kind of clamshell devices, netbooks, and then you've got the emerging area of tablets and slates. And what I will talk to you about here is that Intel's very focused on what I call a third category of devices that we call hybrids. And so what we're seeing both in research and our own product development is a big interest to try and get to a variety of different choices you have on devices. So there's people developing dual screen, almost like a book, if you will, type of device. We have your sliders, convertibles, and detachables. And so what we have here, I don't want to walk too far away from the microphone, are examples of most of those devices as we go through them. So here we've got a honeycomb tablet running on our Oak Trail processor, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We have motion computing tablet. This tablet, if you come look at it, is a little thicker than most tablets, but it's ruggedized, and the target that motion is going after are hospitals, retailers, restaurants, those type of people to bring tablets into the office of the enterprise. To my right there is a concept netbook that's 14 millimeters thin, very light, really nice to lift and carry around. And then over there we've got, let me walk in there real quick. We've got a concept convertible here, which is a normal keyboard, normal screen. You switch it around, drop it, and you've got your touch tablet right next to it as well. And then here, of course, we've got the Chromebooks that were introduced about 3-4 weeks ago. And at Computest 2 weeks ago, we introduced a netbook. This will be priced in some emerging markets as low as $199. Very light, very thin. This is running Mega. So the other parts of choices that we want to talk about, Intel's strategy is operating system choice. I'll touch on this a little bit more in a couple of minutes. And then finally, the types of applications that you want. And Intel has a kind of a unique approach on apps as well that I'll touch on in a couple of minutes. Our point is, there's not going to be one size that fits everybody's device and everything that you want to do with your computing device. So when we talk about the experience inside Intel, we talk about what I call kind of a ladder, right? You have from silicon all the way up to kind of experience features, and I'm going to touch on all of these for a couple of minutes each. The point I want to make here is you can have the best silicon in the planet, and I really do believe Intel makes the best silicon in the planet. That's not going to be good enough to bring up a whole experience all the way up to the top that people want to enjoy with their devices. So this is kind of the ladder that we'll talk about, and I want to break that down real quick for you. So silicon and platforms, everybody kind of knows the Moore's Law cadence that Intel is on. Every 2 years we do shrinks with our process technology. It's a 2-year cadence. And again, 3 or 4 weeks ago, we outlined a revolutionary invention inside our factories in our silicon when we get to the 22 nanometer process starting next year in our core processor family. And we're going to be seeing dramatic, we call it tri-gate transistors, 3D transistors. And what we're going to see is a dramatic drop in the way we can work on performance, increasing or decreasing power consumption. And you can see, depending on how we want to kind of tune our processors, we can get, again, major drops in performance for power performance on a transistor up to 40%, and then major increases in performance as well on the performance side of the silicon. So this is a big thing. We do believe we have a strength in process technology. We're far ahead, and we can take advantage of that process technology in our silicon. But what I wanted to talk about on the Atom processor family is received from Intel. What this means is, for those of you that aren't very familiar with Moore's Law, when you double the transistors on a piece of silicon, you can increase performance, you can reduce power, and then there's cost savings as well. And so what we're seeing today is, again, our Oak Trail processor, which I'll talk about, is 45 nanometer. In 4 years, in 2014, we'll speed up to 14 nanometer and be delivering Atom processors in our manufacturing plants at the same time as the Core and Xeon processor now. And I wanted to also comment, my focus here today is on kind of devices, netbooks, and tablets. With this Atom processor group, we'll cover TVs, phones, cars, PCs, all Atom processors will be focused in this area. Okay, so today's silicon lineup, many of you might know this. We have 3 processor families targeting netbooks. The newest processor family here was announced 2 weeks ago at Computex, the N435. Again, this is a low-cost silicon option to bring in a price point of about $199 on netbooks. And the one thing I wanted to point out here too is we're celebrating a birthday in June, and that we've now shipped 100 million Atom processors in about 3 years, just under 3 years, targeting netbooks. So very fast creation of a device, very fast ramp into this year. Tablets we talked about a little bit. Again, the C670, this is our Oak Trail product. Again, it's in the market. We're starting to see tablets based on Oak Trail coming into the market. Obviously, Intel's the only silicon maker that has things that's running on Windows. So you're seeing Windows devices from Toshiba, Motion, Fujitsu, and then also plans for Migo and Android devices, like the one I showed here, the Android device right there. And then we also often draw from our phone device, from our phone roadmap. In this respect, we have the Z625 and Z615 processors, again, Atom processors built from the phone up. And about 2 weeks ago in Computex, Acer showed up their Migo proposed tablet, working with a really interesting UI. So again, choice of chips, choice of operating systems, all running in through today's market. Tomorrow's lineup, again, here's what we're saying publicly about the chips coming up. In the second half of this year, we'll introduce Cedar Trail. Cedar Trail is a product targeted at convertibles and netbooks and other kind of clamshell devices. Cedar Trail is a 32 nanometer product, right? So we'll go from 45 nanometer on Oak Trail to 32 nanometer. Under 10 watts, so you can get into form factors that are very, very thin, very quiet, fanless, so extra battery life. You'll have 1080p capability. It'll be running on Windows, Chrome OS, so multiple operating systems. And then we're going to be adding new features, which I'll talk about at the end of this presentation. In the first half of 2012, we'll bring our Medfield Atom processor to market. Again, 32 nanometers. Medfield is a phone-built-up processor. It's a system on chip. Everything's integrated on it. Again, we'll target phones and tablets, and it has 1080p and HDMI support. Now, I want to talk about Medfield here in a second. And then later in the second half of 2012, we'll introduce our Clover Trail processor. Again, another 32 nanometer card. This one is really important to us as it'll intersect Windows 8. So Clover Trail, the code name Clover Trail, will be our product that intersects Windows 8. So in the second half of the year, you're going to have a whole new operating system with all new chips from Intel, from Microsoft and Intel working on that market. And again, I'll touch on some of the features that we're going to be building into our chips in a minute. Okay. So the big question is something I didn't really touch on Medfield is, can Intel compete on battery life and power consumption? And what I'm here to tell you is before we get to the 22 nanometer range, where we have that big invention of starting using tri-gate transistors, what we've done is we've taken the tablets that are in the market today and we benchmarked them. And the way I would describe this is the lower the bar, the better. So the bottoms are the best type of performance you can get. And what we did was we took kind of standard components for Medfield, so these may not be as power savvy as some of the others. And then we took a selection of Medfield components that would be very low power, very optimized low power, the screen, the Wi-Fi chip. And what we can show today is on Medfield, again, this is a product coming out in a few months. We're in the range of typically every other tablet in the market, right? In some respects, the red bar, that's the really, power savvy Medfields. We're almost to the point where we're, in standby mode, for example, really, really good. And the other part of this equation is how thin can you get? And with our Medfield tablet, what we're looking at is competitive range range, again, we're going to have something as thin as the thinnest tablets that are in the market today. So my proposition here is Intel will quickly start matching on the battery life and form factor. So then I believe that the conversation or the competition shifts to performance and the experiences you offer that you can differentiate on your tablets. So let's go ahead and get into that. I talked a little bit about operating system choice. Again, Windows 7 tablets, the only ones in the world are running on Intel. Some are in the market on Oak Trail, and more are coming towards the second half of the year on Android and Migo. Chromebooks, I'm sure all of you are aware that Acer and Samsung are shipping Chromebooks today, again on the Atom processor. What's interesting to me on Chromebooks is a lot of the product reviews on Chromebooks, people actually want even more performance on the Chromebook. They like the battery life, they want even more horsepower. That's a good sign for Intel. We have a number of Android products underway. Again, Android on Oak Trail, Android will run on Medfield. So we're looking at the Android operating system. And then again, I talked about the Migo netbook and then the Acer plans for a Migo tablet. So again, choice of operating systems for your companion devices. Okay, app stores. Again, choice at the Intel level. There's more app stores than just this, but I wanted to list the choice of app stores we have. We have Marketplace, obviously, for Android. Intel has the Intel App Up Center. Intel App Up offers Windows 7 type of apps and also Migo type of apps. We're talking about thousands of applications. Many of us forget that the Mac Airline, right, it has an app store. I think there's about 3,000 to 4,000 apps on the Intel and the Mac App Store for the Mac Air, which runs on a core processor, an Intel processor. And then, of course, there's a Chrome web store for the Chromebooks. And so, again, even at the App Store kind of level, you have great choice in terms of what you can do on Intel-based devices. And then last, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what we're hoping to do in our product line. So again, I talked about if you can start matching on power consumption, 30 days of standby, all-day battery life, and I just showed a path of how Intel will get there very quickly. You will be competing on performance. I think Intel traditionally has done very well in performance, and you'll be competing, in my opinion, on the experience that you can deliver. And so a big push for Intel is bringing in a lot of these what we call Siliconized experiences into these platforms. So what do I mean by that? Let's take the first one, for example, wireless display. Many of you might know that technology. It's in our core-based laptops today. Wireless display lets you beam your screen, in this case a tablet screen or a netbook screen, to your television. And so you're watching things, photos, movies on your TV as well as your tablet or netbook screen. Intel wireless music, again, same type of feature. You hook it up to your speakers in your house. You can simply have Pandora and all your music that's on your device in your home speaker system. Intel Smart Technology, this is a technology that we're putting into our platforms that keeps you kind of always on, always connected. You're updating your content even when your tablet or network is asleep or not being used. PC Sync, we think this one's an important one, especially at the enterprise level. This gives you the ability to easily sync your tablet or network, second, third computer with your main computer at home. So sometimes you might want to be exchanging content, contacts, friend contacts. Those applications can all be transferred over using PC Sync. Intel Anti-Theft, we've had this in our vPro family for quite a while. This is an interesting technology. It's literally the low jack of the computer industry, right? Basically, there's a technology here that if your device, your tablet or network or clamshell gets stolen, you can brick it, you can make it useless so that it's turned off and someone else can't access it. It's a good feature for kind of the general consumer. What we're also finding in this technology is companies that sell like a 3G version of a tablet, right? People may sign up for the service to get the cheap price on a tablet and then kind of stop paying the 3G service and just use the Wi-Fi version, right? This would allow a service provider to say, hey, you stop paying your bills, you can brick your tablet or netbook if you don't continue to pay your 3G. Intel Insiders, technology we introduced at CES, again for our core family. Intel Insider basically is a protected way to bring 1080p, high definition, great movies right into your device. This is something that we're signing studios up for and now bringing into the tablet and network experience. Intel vPro Hub, so we have a platform called vPro. We're ensuring that the technology that's inside our vPros, inside the desktops and laptops, connects and talks to your companion devices, so your tablet or your netbook. In this case, this will let IT directors do remote control maintenance, checking on systems, counting systems, tracking systems. All of that will be tied together with Intel vPro Hub. And then Silicon Hive, I don't know if many of you know this company. It's the company we acquired earlier this year. They have fantastic technology that gets you just, DSLR capable photography and video. Really cool technology that we're embedding into our platforms. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming months as we embed that into our systems. And then, of course, there's other things that many people are getting into, near field NFC, near field communications. All of that stuff adds new experiences to your devices. And so, again, our premise is we think we can win it. We know we can match or do better on power consumption. We think we win on a performance equation. Intel's had a history of doing that. And then what we're trying to do is bring in these experiences over time. Some of these will be in Cedar Trail, some of them will be in Medfield, a lot of them will be in Clover Trail. So over the next 12 to 18 months, we believe we can talk to our customers and consumers and show them different experiences that they have on their tablets and their network devices. And in my opinion, again, this is what will differentiate Intel from a lot of the competitors out there. You may have a couple or three of these things, but certainly not the whole portfolio to go out and win like consumers and businesses as well.
Welcome to the Intel tablet booth. What we have here in our display is basically a number of different tablets and netbooks that are all based on the Intel Atom processor. I want to sort of walk you through a couple of these devices. To the left here, this is a concept design called Keeley Lake. And what this is a convertible netbook with our dual-core Atom processor. And so you can sort of see in the back, it's actually got a full physical keyboard, but you can actually fold it, transform it into a slate form factor, and use it purely as a slate device. So we think this is one of many potential ways of doing this hybrid of both touch and keyboard computing. To the right of this is a ODM system that's running Intel. It has the Intel Atom Oak Trail processor running Android Honeycomb software on top. So as you can sort of see, we basically already have Honeycomb up and running on Intel Atom-based systems. To the right of that, this is a concept called the Razer Switchblade. The idea here is this is a sort of clamshell touch device, 7-inch touchscreen on top, an adaptive keyboard with actually physical keys, but has an LCD panel underneath that will adapt based on the usage model you have there. So this is sort of a very interesting idea for a portable gaming device for Windows gaming. To the right here, this is a system by Evolve 3. They're a company based out in Australia. Again, this is our second generation Intel Atom processor Oak Trail. What you can see here is this gives you the sort of the choice of operating systems. You can basically boot up Android or Windows on this system. Evolve's even got devices that will run Nego as well, all on the same hardware. So that's sort of the nice thing about our hardware. Up here, this is the Wii Tab. This is from a German company called 42. What they've done is they've taken our Pine Trail processor, developed a Migo web browsing device. And this is basically meant to be a two-handed browsing experience. You can sort of see the browse off the page here. Again, they've taken the open source Migo, developed a nice UI on top. You also have like a number of different widgets you can do to sort of run different applications as well as have active displays. This here is a system from ViewSonic. It's actually a Windows 7 machine, but this is running a virtualized Android on top through a package called BlueStack. So it's a nice sort of software. Again, lets you do sort of the best of both worlds. Through Windows for productivity, Android for gaming, for example. This device here is from OpenPeak. This actually has our second generation Morristown processor, Z615. Again, you see a nice 6-7-inch display, really portable design. Last but not least, this is the Fujitsu Stylistic Q550. It's really geared for enterprise. You can use the stylus, for example. But we've also, able to sort of load up a number of sort of fun entertainment applications through our App Up Center, including things like Angry Birds. So again, just a smattering of the different choices that you have with Intel Atom processor for tablets and netbooks.